Yeah, this was not the apocalypse we were supposed to have.
Yeah, it's not the one I voted for.
Right?
Mine had zombies in it.
Mine did
Right?
for sure. Yeah.
Today we are joined by Leo Disanto of Vinegar Creek constituency and April Hartman of Apes of the State. Music in the time of Corona.
Creativity and engagement.
I'm Jesse.
I'm Lee.
And this is Art Unlocked.
I'm April. I play in a band called Apes of the State. And we're from Lancaster, and we're usually pretty active with touring and stuff like that, but during quarantine, that's a no-go. And yeah, I've been trying to figure out new ways to stay active in music from home.
All right, Leo.
Yeah, my name's Leo Disanto, and I'm a song and story man from Lancaster, still in Lancaster, based in Lancaster, probably eternally. And my main project for the past, I don't know, decade or so is a band called Vinegar Creek Constituency, somewhere along the folk, bluegrass, Americana sort of spectrum. We were into some touring too, and I was planning on doing a lot of that this year. And then all of a sudden, my full-time job of performing music in bars and old folks' homes and stuff just evaporated. So I've gone into a hard pivot all at once, trying to, as April said, figure out how to make it fly as a shut-in, which is interesting, including things like this, which I've never done in my life, and I've done it twice this week. This whole other people's faces on a screen type of setup. So yeah, it's been a transformation.
Should we just go from there and talk about like your setup with how obviously you guys were touring and doing things before with like working directly with an audience. Like, what is your experience now being in this quarantine situation? Like, are you isolated? Do you get to see the audience? Do you hear feedback, or like talk about that if you don't mind?
So I've put like a lot of investment / I guess effort into building like my online audience for a couple of years now, just because the genre that my band plays in is like folk punk music, and it's kind of very niche. Like, it's not something that you typically go to a bar and like there's a folk punk band playing and everybody's like, yeah, this is great. It's more like for a specific type of person that likes this kind of music, and it's like it's not as broad. So I've for the last couple of years, like I've done a lot of networking with people all over the country that play this kind of music, and our fan base is very like I said, we're niche, so we have like a lot of groups and like Facebook groups and Reddit groups that we all interact with each other through normally. So honestly, because of how that is, like this hasn't been too much of a change. Like the only time we play to like big crowds is when we go on tour and we visit these cities. So I am, in order to keep that that scene thriving during the quarantine, we started like a web stream series, like a live stream series called Coping with Dystopia, and we're on our 5th week now. And it's basically just like folk punk bands. We're slowly bringing in other genres, but folk punk's the base of it because it's very easy to do concerts from home with the acoustic instruments, and that's like the majority of the network is folk punk bands. But yeah, we've been just bringing bands together to play for charity every Friday night, so that's been fun. Aside from that, like I do a lot of merch sales and things from my house. That's been something that I've always done, so that's kind of what's keeping me afloat right now. And just the live stream shows in general, trying to do more of them, like at least once a week. Either it's on Instagram or on Facebook, just hopping on and like chatting with people, taking requests, learning covers, just whatever, staying engaged with people.
Well, that sounds cool. So you have some kind of feedback from the audience. They're requesting songs or they're requesting covers, and you're interacting in some way.
Yeah, there's like a chat when we do the Coping with Dystopia stream on YouTube. There's like a chat on the side, and that's kind of become the home base for people that are watching and interacting with the performers. We tell the bands to like hop in the chat before and after they play, and like it's not the real thing, you know, it's not being face to face at a show, but it definitely feels as close to it that we've found so far.
Yeah, I don't know if you could do like a Zoom performance like this where you have a band and you can see the band and you can see all of your fans. Obviously, you would have only 6 fans or so.
Right.
All right, Leo, how have you adapted?
Yeah, similar but different. In my case, I can't say that I was as much a part of a music community or a scene of some kind as April seems to be. There are no groups online or anything like that. But I've kind of been trying to build that sort of thing just in the short time that I've been doing this full time instead of going out and playing in bars. And people are really eager for personal connection right now. So it's actually been way more rewarding than I would have thought, that a sudden shift to playing entirely online and creating online content instead of being out in the venues would be. But there's something really genuine going on in those shows, I'm finding. So what I did is I fortunately for me, I had been accumulating a lot of kind of audio visual gear in the last year because I became interested in making videos, my own music videos and video editing and things. So I had a decent DSLR camera and some sound equipment, recording interface, that kind of thing. So I was in lighting. I'd invested in some, cheap kind of video lighting. So I was already pretty well set up to do a decent quality live stream show with a good picture and good sound. And I started doing them right away. The first week that the gigs went away was St. Patrick's Day. I did a St. Patrick's show. The response was really good in terms of, the enthusiasm, and I made some money. So I've been doing maybe 3 live stream shows a week. And in terms of interacting, that's my favorite part of it. And I found pretty early on that that's the part that people are really responding to as well. I notice a lot of musicians are just kind of setting up their phone in the corner and then going at it and playing for an hour or two, which is cool too. I'm sure people are enjoying that, but people seem to really respond to the interactive element. So I'll have a computer screen right in front of me and the comment stream turned on. I'm using a third-party software and I can just enable the comments so I can see them. I'll take a lot more requests than I usually don't throw it out there like, hey, does anyone have any requests? But these days the shows are made up, maybe predominantly of request material. And, I chat with people in the comments, ask them what they're doing, what they're eating, what they're drinking, what kind of exercise they're doing on a scale of 1 to 10, how deranged they're feeling. Just kind of like, it's a chance to be with people in some way. And, people have been really receptive to it. It's been really to an extent that I wouldn't have expected. People say, wow, this is really what I needed today. I feel really lucky to be here. And it's not because of anything that I'm doing, personally, just so much as these opportunities that we have to be together and enjoy some music in whatever way is available to us. So it's kind of cool. I'm still feeling it out and trying to find different ways to expand on it.
That's really cool. Firstly, a comment on your setup. Obviously, what you have, your microphone there, your lighting, and you have seemingly what looks like a halo behind your head, that moon. Yeah. I'm sorry, the way it just had like a halo behind your head.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Zoom thing won't let me use my nice camera, so this is just a FaceTime camera in my computer, so it might be making things a little weird. I'm getting, look out.
Yeah, things are about to get weird.
Yeah, you got to fight off this small wolf here for a minute. This is the backdrop that I've been using for my shows, and I just keep adding more lights and hangings and things to it till it looks interesting to me, and then hopefully it does to other people. That moon was from the cover. I made that for the cover of one of my CDs years back. I made an album called The Moon, a Silver Dime, so I made that moon. I thought it looked nice hanging up behind me, shoot some blue lights at it.
Yeah.
Something a little different.
April, you were, I saw your videos. You were recording in the most recent ones I saw. You were in that like a garage area.
Yes. That's the garage that we throw shows in when this is not crazy world. It's our carriage house that me and Dan renovated, and the wood wall behind me was the wood wall made up of all the wood we tore out of the garage. So I would do more live streams from out there, but our Wi-Fi doesn't reach out there. So whenever I'm live streaming, I'm stuck inside, unfortunately.
But then I also saw some live streams of you as the whole band together. It seemed more than, obviously, how are you doing that? Like,
that was really early on. we had a live stream show set up like the first, we canceled our tour that was supposed to start like March 13th. And like that weekend we had a live stream show set up. So like that was super early on in like all of this, and we were still getting together to like play together. But since we did two, we did one and then we did one the weekend after. And then since then we were kind of all like, all right, it's been fun, but we should probably stay home. Even like, you know, from our bandmates, just because like my bandmates have housemates, and then like we're going out to go to the grocery store, and then eventually you edit all up and then you end up interacting with like 40 people when you really only meant to interact with two. So, and I'm high risk, so we kind of just decided we were gonna, you know, cut it down to either me by myself or me and Dan for any future things.
So besides being able to connect with your audience virtually, have you found this to be a good opportunity for creativity?
No. No. Well, it's like a landscape that's constantly changing for me. You know, the first week, I was just kind of brimming with creativity. I think I made 2 or 3 videos that I was staying up all night working on. I wrote the song that you have that I sent to you, the quarantine song. I wrote that and made the video. So I was feeling really active. And then the next week I was gripped with this sort of inertia where I just wanted to watch dramatic TV shows for long stretches of time. So it's been up and down. I've definitely been working and practicing for the shows a lot and trying to get some things done. But it's just kind of an ever-changing mental landscape. I'm finding, you know, you follow the news, you tune in online to see what everybody else is doing and thinking about all that's happening. And I don't know, it seems like kind of an amorphous territory to me. I guess this is a way of saying I imagined that I would be a lot more active in terms of writing and things than I have. And maybe that's coming. Maybe it's just kind of a prelude to that. It's hard to say, but I find it to be a disorienting time.
Yeah, this was not the apocalypse we were supposed to have.
Yeah, it's not the one I voted for.
Right?
Mine had zombies in it.
Mine did,
Right?
for sure. Yeah.
April,
what
how's
about
your
you?
creativity?
I'm the kind of person that like even pre-quarantine, I stay in my house a lot except for when I'm like on tour. I don't go around out a lot in Lancaster, aside from like when I exercise, which I can't do anymore because I broke my ankle like during the second week of quarantine. So that's been fun. But as far as like creativity goes, I'm always doing something. Like I'm always planning the next tour, or I'm always like putting everything into promoting the next event or something like that. So with this, it's mostly just been a shift from focusing on live shows and planning the tours, to creating like content that I can engage my fans with over the internet. And I guess like that's creativity, because it's like creating photos, it's creating like videos. I just downloaded TikTok on my phone. I'm really excited about that. Looking to interact with like the younger portion of my fan base, because that's like their thing, you know. I posted like a funny video of me like working out with seltzer cases, because I have a song called Defense Seltzer. Just like coming up with different ways to engage fans in those kind of ways. As far as like being creative and writing songs, I haven't written anything really new since quarantine started, but I'm working on recording. And I'm working on just like playing technique. I've been doing it's actually been quite a relief to not have to be working towards practicing for like the next show or practicing my own songs. I've just been able to play for the sake of it. So I've been hanging out in my yard, just like playing banjo, playing guitar. And I got like alarmingly better at guitar within a week span of time just by doing that. Cause I was like, oh, I could like noodle around and mess around and not have to play my own songs. And like, suddenly I was like, ripping bluegrass songs, and Dan was like, what are you doing? Like, how did this happen? You know, all I had to do was take away the pressure of playing actual songs away, you know.
You mentioned then engaging your fans and using TikTok to engage a younger audience. So like, how are you engaging the audience? Like, are you going like Leo? I think you're on YouTube, and then you had April, your Facebook Live. Like, how are you guys doing this?
I try to use a little bit of everything, because Facebook is like majority like mid-20s and up, which is like our fan base tends to be like mid-20s to mid-30s, right? So like Facebook is like the majority of those people, but then people younger than that really like Instagram for the photos. So I use Instagram to share like short videos and photos. And then Twitter, which is just like a whole nother thing, is just seems to be for sassy thoughts. So I just share my sassy thoughts whenever I have them on Twitter. And then, yeah, I just got TikTok, so I'm not so sure about it, how it works yet, but I'm working on it. And that's, I guess, for the younger people, the kids that like dancing a lot. So maybe I'll be coming up with some dances for my songs. I think that'll help with
Yes.
Wait, do you come up with a dance, then you teach? Like, I've heard of TikTok, on to pretend like I know what it is. I don't.
Jesse,
Wait,
do you remember Vine?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
it's
that,
that.
but longer.
Oh, okay.
But like,
All right.
in case you didn't realize by now, Zoomers and like the younger generation, they're obsessed with dancing. Like they love it. When I used to work at the Boys and Girls Club in Lancaster, like all the kids would come in and they would all know the same dances. And I would be like, how do you know these? And they would be like, oh, YouTube or this and that. Like, you know, artists, they write songs nowadays that have dance steps in them. So the kids all learn them and then they make TikToks of them. So
Wow.
I'm thinking like, you know, I could adapt and make some dances on my songs, and then maybe they could go viral and everybody will do them.
Modern Macarena.
Yeah.
Leo, how are you engaging your audience? What platforms are you using?
You know, I've invented one dance in my life, and it was many years ago. It was called the plunger. Do you
Yeah, I
remember
know
that?
this one.
Remember that?
I've done it many times.
Just get a plunger on, and then you can't see what the lower body is doing, so it doesn't have the same effect. But you know, anything with a good plodding kind of rhythm. But that's a great. I like the idea of inventing dances to go with your music. That's brilliant.
Can you just do that motion again?
Yeah, totally. It's better if you're on your feet. You know, I'm sitting in an office chair because that's what I do now. It's like my job used to be so physically demanding, and now I don't even have to stand up anymore. Yeah, I feel great. Yeah. Well, you know, creating and kind of curating and organizing online content is now my full-time gig. So yeah, I've been putting a lot of attention into that too. So far I have a couple different YouTube channels. One of them is for like longer musical storytelling travel pieces, which obviously aren't happening right now because I'm not traveling. That's a channel called Yonder Songs, where there's some longer, you know, pieces in there. Videos with story songs written about the place that I went to, and there's a van and a goofy brown dog. It's kind of like Scooby-Doo, only with more guitars, basically, you know. But I've got a channel that's just kind of my channel that was just a repository for various music videos. I've been putting more into that now, and I'm kind of looking to use that as an archive for these live stream shows I'm doing. The software I'm using enables me to record them onto my computer. So far, I've just been stacking them up on my Facebook page. People do seem to go back and watch them later. But I'd like to shift it to YouTube because there's a better opportunities for monetization if I can get enough subscribers on there and enough hours of views. So I've been trying to urge people to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure everyone can find the live stream shows when they happen. Make sure they know they're going to happen, because it definitely makes a difference to get the word out there in advance. And yeah, I don't know what TikTok is. I'll admit that. And I don't like Twitter. Like Twitter seems to me to be like for people that think that they have something profound to share every hour instead of a couple of times a day, like on Facebook. And the vast majority of them seem to be mistaken in this belief. and I personally don't believe that I have something profound to share every. April made it a little bit more understandable to me by saying that it's just really something. It's just a place for sassy thoughts. That makes sense. So I'm not on there, but I do share photos on Instagram, and I'm most active on Facebook, I think, because it's better for, I'm obviously a pretty wordy guy, and it's better for like long form stuff, like full length videos and long screeds and rants of the sort that I often am given over to. So yeah, I've got my Leo Disanto Facebook musician page where most of the stuff is happening these days.
All right, here, let's go to your song right now, the quarantine song.
Sure.
So I says, lady, I got allergies, and I wasn't trying to spit on you. I was trying to spit next to you. Anyway, I see your rain-soaked cat turd, and I raise you one piece of rotisserie chicken. Really?
Why don't you stay over there, babe? Leave it all to my imagination. So much anxiety, it's getting hard to swallow. All of a sudden everyone's a fucking epidemiologist. Stay home and let this pageant play, friends. Don't need to let your spirit sag, 'cause that coronavirus is here to inspire us to do that social distancing rag. Oh, I love it when you don't touch me there, babe. Maybe just don't touch me anywhere, babe. Damned if we do, damned if we don't. Go out and spread it round, or stay home and just go broke. We all need some personal space, friends. Although it's kind of a drag, but that coronavirus is here to inspire us to do that social distancing rag. Let me break it down. Step one, I stay over here. Step two, you stay over there. Step three, well actually there's no step three. I stay over here, you stay over there. We just stay the fuck away from each other. We're all up in each other's shit. We've been fighting like cats in a bag, till that coronavirus came along to inspire us to do the social distancing rag. How long can a fella talk to dogs? The answer is a pretty long ass time. Soon enough we'll all go back to slobbering on each other. Let the good be that which cares for our most vulnerable brothers and sisters. Thanks for hearing out my tale, y'all. Don't be afraid to let it wag, since that coronavirus is here to inspire us to do the social distancing. Don't get no hug or kissing when you do the social distancing rag.
Dr. Drew isn't an expert. He's a game show host with a degree. You guys are assholes. Come on, let's go watch Pee Wee
Herman. So that was a lot of fun, Leo. My favorite thing was when you rhymed swallow with epidemiolo, and then and that was cleverly goes into the next phrase, just whatever it was, and
I had to stretch before that one.
It was funny though, like when I was listening to it earlier and heard the line about like how long can you talk to dogs, I was literally having a conversation with my cat. He's like, and so that was just, I got a chuckle out of that.
I've been wondering if the cats have been as receptive to the increased company as the dogs are.
No, they hate it, I'm
He
sure.
hates it. He hates it.
It's like, what the fuck are you still doing here?
Yeah. I'm the king in the house. You're just a visitor.
Exactly.
So I'm guessing this was one of the songs you wrote then within the first week of...
Yeah, that was right after it sank in that this is the way things were going to be, because I kind of at first, I'm fighting off dogs right now. At first I kind of thought that I was going to maybe slip under the radar because, they were telling people to not hold large gatherings, and almost none of my shows count as large gatherings, maybe a couple a year that have a few hundred people at them, but mostly it's small bar gigs or small listening rooms or old folks homes, which of course those were the first to go, understandably. But it just happened so quick that it made me dizzy. One day I was playing gigs the weekend before St. Patrick's Day. The crowds were a little smaller than usual. I was starting to hear people were starting to kind of bear down on their public shaming of people who were going out, and some people need to go out to work. And then it just became very clear within a period of like 2 days that okay, we're all going to stay home.
Yeah.
So that was when I wrote that song and made the video. And it was a little harder to get the dogs to cooperate than you would necessarily think by watching it. They seem pretty chill, but it's a volatile situation inherently working with dogs and chicken like that, So, yeah, it was, I was trying to be funny, trying to be hopeful. Probably won't be the last quarantine song that I put out during this time.
Probably or definitely?
I'd say I definitely will put out more of them. Yeah. I was exaggerating the inertia a little bit. I've actually been pretty active in trying to work and make the shows better and come up with new material. I'm doing a Beatles brunch every Sunday. Sunday at 1 p.m. I've been doing them because I figure if there's one band in the world that will make a pretty large majority of listeners feel a little bit better during the course of a day and kind of calm people and get people singing along, it's probably the Beatles. And anyway, they're my favorite band, so nuts to everybody else if they don't like it. But I spend a lot of time now learning new Beatles songs or practicing Beatles songs, and I've kind of turned that into a vehicle for raising money for various charity organizations around town. As of the last couple of weeks, I've been donating the proceeds from those Beatles shows to food banks and such. So that's a fun project. I'm going to keep on going with that.
Yeah, that sounded cool. I saw you were doing that. Sounded very exciting.
Yeah, it's been really, it really feels good to do. I was recently listening to a podcast with a psychologist who's done a lot of research on happiness. And one of the interesting things that they found is that they did a study to see if people could make themselves happier, if kind of tested on it. Can you if you're feeling low, can you pull yourself out of it? Can you make yourself happier? And Americans apparently tested differently than people from a number of other cultures that they included in this study. They found that Americans on the whole failed to accomplish this, and that people from other cultures were more successful at a much higher rate. And when they looked into it, it turned out that people from our culture, when you say do something to make yourself happy, they go out and buy themselves something, or buy themselves an experience, take a trip or something like that. Whereas in a lot of other cultures, if you say do something to make you happy, they'll go out and do something for someone else. And it turns out that the science of happiness, the research clearly bears out the idea that doing things for other people makes you happier than doing things for yourself. So in that regard, I'm going to just go ahead and claim that this is the height of all selfishness to raise money for anyone, because it feels really good to do. So yeah, I'm just going to keep treating myself.
Treating yourself by treating others. Go ahead. Sorry,
right.
Leo, I wanted to circle back real quick to your video because I noticed at the end of it you had a Patreon link.
Yeah.
Patreon's like something that I've been considering working through during the quarantine, just because I'm not going to have the income from live shows for the foreseeable future, and I've been working on trying to figure out ways to like monetize content. So I just wanted to ask like how it's been working out, if it's something that you've been doing for a while or if it's new, and like how you use it basically.
Yeah, I started my Patreon page about 3 years ago, and it took a full year of dithering over whether or not I was comfortable with it before I actually did it, because it's a format that it's a kind of platform that not a lot of people understand yet, being a subscription based thing, because we really tend to commodify things as product or not product in our culture. So it's like, what's the product? It's difficult to explain to people. That said, since this whole quarantine thing started happening, my Patreon page I've probably doubled my number of subscribers, and it's really become a much more significant part of my income. And it's been a good experience for me. I'm still figuring it out in terms of what I think the best way to use it is. Like, do you make things, you have to give some content that's patron only content. I feel some people make everything public, some people make everything private. So I'm kind of figuring out the vagaries of that right now, and still learning how to use it effectively. But it's definitely become important during this time as a way of generating somewhat of a predictable income, because live stream tips could be one thing or they could be another, but when you have your numbers on Patreon, you can at least count on a certain amount of income per month.
Yeah, I'm just interested in it. My main source of income, like when I'm not touring, has been streaming revenue from Spotify and things like that for the last
Really?
couple of years.
Is that significant for you?
It is. We have a decent following, we have a decent amount of people that listen to us on streaming services, because I put a lot of work into tricking the algorithm into thinking that we're way cooler than we are.
Nice.
Basically, I could get into it for a long time, but once you get the algorithm to figure out what you sound like and what big bands that you sound like, then it'll push you and it'll help boost your numbers up. It's something that we could chat about if you're interested in it. But
I would love to talk about that sometime, because my earnings from Spotify are just minuscule, like laughably small. My royalty statements are like comic relief when they come in the mail.
But mine have been good. But during quarantine, we've actually noticed, and a lot of artists have noticed this, that our streaming numbers are down, and a lot of that is because people aren't commuting and they're not working, and a lot of people that while they work, they stream music, whether it be they're at this coffee shop and they are playing a playlist over the radio, or they're listening to it in the car on the way home from work or whatever. So our listeners dropped. So there's like a gap now in what we've been making, and I've been trying to figure out how to fill that gap. And like you were saying, it's hard because I'm trying to justify the Patreon thing in my head, throwing it around, and because it's like monetizing content that I would normally give away for free. So I'm trying to figure out where do you tread the line of this content being the exclusivity of it, essentially.
For someone who seems to have invested a lot of time in building this kind of grassroots, like enthusiastic grassroots following that hangs out in a lot of places online and is kind of active and is engaged, I think that Patreon would probably really work for you, because that's kind of what's necessary. It's, do you have people that care about what you do, and are they active online, and, will they, be there to check out these posts when you put things up? And it seems like it might be a good option with the situation you're describing.
I'm thinking about releasing a new album, demo versions of an entire new album slowly through Patreon.
Yeah, I'm actually planning to do something similar, because I have a lot of new songs that I was planning to maybe just record an acoustic album while I'm here in quarantine and release it that way. Yeah. I've seen some other people do that. There are some people that have kind of served as role models for me in their use of Patreon. You can check out Carsey Blanton is one of them, and Amanda Palmer is probably
I love Amanda Palmer.
She's like the most successful Patreon user in the world. I think she has something like 15 to 20,000 patrons, and she organizes them in all different countries to do little private shows and things. And the philosophy behind using it and why it's, a kind of a legitimate thing to do, she really articulates that well. She's got a whole book called The Art of Asking, and a TED talk by the same name. So it does require thinking about the business of music a little bit differently, but it seems like you probably might already be on that page, because you're doing things in a different way already. I'd love to talk to you about some of your strategies sometimes too, because it seems like you're doing things in a really different way than I do.
Heck yeah, I'm all about learning.
Likewise, yeah.
I'm just other thing you brought up, like you talked about a lot about YouTube, and your video was on YouTube, and like that's something I kind of neglected in the last couple of years, just because it's like it's hard to build a following on YouTube as opposed to social media. So
Yeah.
because you got to have the content to put out, and like I've been brainstorming different ways to come up with content for that. And two of the things I came up with are to do like tutorial videos of how to play our songs for people that want to cover them. And then the second thing I wanted to do was just like a series on just like DIY promotion, marketing / like merch from home. I know like a lot of bands are stuck at home and they have never ran a web store before. So like just, I mean, I've been doing that for like 4 years now, and it's a lot of my income. So like teaching people how to mail merch items from home and stuff like that, just like doing a series on those kind of things, and just like get ideas flowing between bands on how we can like help and support each other, what we've figured out, what works, what doesn't over the years, but especially how it applies to now. So.
Yeah, those are great ideas. I mean, I know that I'd be interested in participating and checking out that kind of content. So I'm sure a lot of other people would too. And these are ways that musicians can really help each other. Is like, hey, what's worked for you? Well, that doesn't. That does. You know, it's that's the way that we all get better at trying to make this crazy ass thing work.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's got to be very different right now. Like, you know, the whole game has changed. The whole idea of business has changed. The whole idea of like communicating with your audience has changed. Like, are you taking like requests for your Beatles thing? And
yeah, and that's one of the ways that I use my Patreon page. I'll give my patrons first crack at requests for the Beatles thing, and kind of weight the requests according to that. And I try not to really make it a division between listeners, like, oh, if you're a patron, you blah blah blah. But just let people know that they're supporting you. People like to support things that they find value in. They're happy to do it. But sorry, I kind of got lost on that tangent there. Can you repeat your question?
no, I think that's a wonderful observation. I mean, like, imagine like the music business started with musicians being paid to perform,
right?
And and then we went to like at some point we went to this idea of like the performances are more or less just like promotion for a CD or a recording, right? Something that they can sell for a ridiculous amount of money and make a huge profit on.
Sure.
But now we're back on this idea of you are performing and you have to make money from that somehow.
Yeah. And the vast majority of my income for years now has been just from like really grinding it out, doing bar gigs and parties and any other gig that'll have me. And I'm kind of trying to take this time and this experience as a chance to maybe develop other aspects of the job that I am interested in. I've been asking listeners when I do these live stream shows, like, hey, would you keep watching this show? Like if I turn it into a thing after, even when you can go out, like what if I had musical guests on and we jam together and I talk to them about their travels, and people seem, who knows what it'll actually shake out as, but people seem enthusiastic about keeping it going. So maybe that'll become, an element of what I do. I'd like to get more into, the online store type thing, like April was just talking about, because I sell CDs at shows, but I'm not super good at making things available. People have been asking me for a new T-shirt for years, and I haven't delivered one. But I do like to still keep it somewhat flexible. Like all my CDs and albums are available on my website at the price of pay what you will. Because I figure, especially now more than ever, people's capabilities are different, and I don't want the fact that somebody doesn't have $10 to be the reason they don't have my album. So if they need to pay $1, that's fine too. And that's a model that's working really well, both in terms of Patreon and in terms of the live stream shows. People who have the means to donate $100 might do that, but people who can't afford to donate anything, I welcome them to come and enjoy the show anyway, because that always has to be the first priority, I think. Just having the music get out to people and letting people enjoy it with me. So
you brought up like just one more thing with what you were saying. You brought up the question of like, will this continue after quarantine? And I think that's like an important thing to bring up. And it's come up a lot with the live stream series that I've been doing, is that we've noticed a ton of people that watch them every week have been saying things like, I never ever got to see any, I never would have been able to see any of these bands play if you didn't do this, because whether they're geographically isolated or just different reasons why people can't attend live events, whether they're like financially unable to, or they're not like able-bodied enough to stand, or if venues aren't accessible enough for them in those kind of aspects. So like, I've noticed that, and I think it's a very interesting like side byproduct essentially of this like whole quarantine thing, is that it actually made the music scene a lot more accessible to people, and we didn't even realize it would happen. So.
Yeah, definitely. And bringing all these people that I've met in my travels together under the same umbrella has been really kind of cool to see. You know, the other day I did a show and I had, you know, musician friends that I met on tour in Ireland interacting with friends from the hometown here in the same comment thread and kind of throwing jokes back and forth to each other. And just, you know, people will check in sometimes and say, hey, I'm watching from Texas, I'm watching from New Hampshire, whatever. And I love that element of it. People that would never be together in the same room, or who, as you pointed out, might not have been able to make it to a show at all. People who are elderly and can't leave their house for any reason right now. It is, the accessibility of it is definitely something cool.
So as so I live with a chronic illness and I'm in pain all the time. And I've noticed like I don't get to go out to shows ever, because most of the time the venues are inaccessible, and it has been a really exciting opportunity now to be able to see everybody performing who I've never had the opportunity to do. So I hope that the streaming that a lot of folks are doing continues. Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I plan to continue doing it as long as anyone continues watching it. I really enjoy it. I mean, making my living as I do, playing bar gigs, it's not always a rewarding experience. You know, I love to perform. And I appreciate it for what it is. But playing underneath 5 TV sets, showing football games in a restaurant
Mm-hmm.
for a couple of $100 can be a rough way to go sometimes. You know, I still consider myself extremely lucky to get to do that for a living, as opposed to so many of the things other people have to do for a living. But the opportunity to broadcast for some people who are really listening and appreciating it is very welcome for me. And being able to reach people who can't come out to the shows or just don't want to. I don't love going out to bars when I'm not performing. So yeah, I definitely want to keep rolling with it.
Are you all right, Lee?
It's West James Street. This happens a few times every hour.
Yeah.
Here, we should
Also,
take this moment
Edit
now.
that out, please.
Let's listen to April's song here. Give me a minute to. Oh, that's not it.
I'm touching my face on camera so much right now.
Now that you said that, I want to touch my face,
Right.
and I know I've done it like 40 times.
I can't stop.
It's
not-
not
No,
fun stuff.
no Home Alone.
Not gonna try.
You're Home Alone, but don't Home Alone.
Yeah. Don't do the Home Alone.
I can't even
just
imagine
try to,
what would
like,
happen if I
reach
put
in.
aftershave on my face like that scene. Like,
I try to ration my face touching for when I'm home.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just do it a lot when I'm home, so that when I'm out, I don't want to do it as much.
That's smart.
Hey, I'm April from a band called Apes of the State. This is a song called Little Things. I'm always the strong friend. Nobody asks how I'm doing. And some of my old friends changed so much that I don't recognize them. We were best friends when we were young, so why'd you have to go and become a cop? Thought I knew you. Thought I knew all of us. Guess all the nights spent drinking in my backyard felt better than being alone, like when I was a kid on the schoolyard. But now I'm getting older, starting to realize that the people that I thought were my friends were just people I was forced to be around. And now when I don't really have to be anywhere, I barely ever leave my house, 'cause I was always a weird kid, got good at playing pretend. Grew up and nothing is different, I just have lots of weird friends. And I love every one of you, I don't say it enough. And I'm proud of all the things you do and what we've overcome. Look at us! my thoughts start screaming. There's so many things wrong and I feel like there's nothing I can do to fix it. I wanna have kids someday, but I'm scared of the world that we are leaving for that. And maybe I'm just freaking out about the little things, and it will all work out, but I can't help but feel like if I wanna build a future that I wanna see, time is running out and I can't keep blaming people from my past for where I am right now. So I am mad at my parents, they were just trying their best. Nobody knows what we're doing, we're all just sick of this. And I'm not mad at society, it's only what we make it. So I hope we're taking steps today to tear it down to pieces. And I feel like all these little things, they might add up to something big. I think we're on to something, yeah, I think we're on to something. Yeah, I feel like all these little things, they might add up to something big. If we pick up all the pieces, we can rebuild something different, better than what we were given. Woo! Shout out to my friends who give me hope on the days I don't want this for myself. I wouldn't be here without your help. And all the ones who got off this ride before it was your time. You give me the inspiration to make the best of what is left of mine. And to Bernard, 'cause you're the one who told me to change your life through music. And to Nick, 'cause you're the one who gave me the confidence to do it. And to Ashley, 'cause I know that you would love this song. Pittsburgh will never be the same without you there singing along. And Dennis, 'cause not a day goes by, man, that I'm not thinking of you. To my mom, because you never even got to see me grow up. And to my friends who are here with me, I'm not saying let's take life seriously, but serious about you staying alive. 'Cause I wanna grow old with all of you and never grow up. I wanna leave the world a better place than it was for us. Oh, I wanna grow old with all of you and never grow up. I wanna leave the world a better place than it was for us. Oh, I wanna grow old with all of you and never grow up. I wanna leave the world a better place than it was for us. And we'll throw the sickest basement shows in whatever shitty old folks home they stick us in to die. And laugh about when we were kids and how beautiful it is to be alive.
So did you you recorded that during this quarantine? Did you write that at this time then too, or?
That song is actually a song that I rarely do I work on songs for longer than a half hour ever. I usually just like write a song really fast and that's it. But that was like a rare song that I've been working on for like a couple years now, actually, that like just came in segments. And the last segment came right at the beginning of the coronavirus stuff, like mid-March. And so I finished the song and recorded it during quarantine, but it's been in the works for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the mortality topic there was just like, I mean, obviously it's very potent right now.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it applies to the situation that's going on right now. But a lot of it, like I started writing that song in 2017 after my one friend Dennis that I mentioned in the end of the song overdosed and died. And like, there's a lot of other people I mentioned in it too that were friends of mine that have died as a result of the opiate crisis. So at its like core, the song is about that. It's about the opiate crisis. And but like from a broad perspective, it's about how like I want just whatever it is, our vices or whatever it is, I want all my friends to be healthy and safe so that we can grow old together. Whether it's staying safe by staying at home right now or staying safe by utilizing harm reduction. Or whatever it is.
So when you, oh, go ahead, Lee.
Go ahead.
So I was going to ask, is this how, for your band, do you usually write the song then yourself and then you bring that song? Like, is this something that would then eventually have the other members?
Yeah, I usually bring songs to the band. And I did play that, like, we had one last practice on the 11th of March because we were supposed to leave on the 13th, or I think maybe even on the 12th we had a practice. And like that was the first day I was like, hey, I have this new song, I want to show it to everybody, and I played it for the band, and we all were like, wow, we love the song, we're gonna figure out how to like play it. Yeah, from there we usually just keep playing it at practice, working on it until we fill it out how we want it filled out. For the quarantine thing, part of why I've been recording new songs, like little demos of them like that, is because I wanted to send them to the whole band so that we can kind of work on it from home. And then when we are able to get together, we already kind of have an idea of how we want to shape it.
I've heard of other musicians, like there was like a Toronto Symphony thing where they had like they were doing a multi-track thing that way. Like, is that something that you would consider doing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. I'm probably going to work on recording for this new album we're going to record. We're going to mostly do it from home. So I'm getting a new computer because my computer sucks. And we have enough equipment, we have enough microphones and things to do like the base of it here. So I think I'm going to start with doing like vocals and acoustic guitar and banjo and mandolin from the house, and then like one by one we could bring in people, and then eventually bring it over to a studio, probably Triforce to finish it up whenever we can do that, add drums or whatever like finishing touches we want to put on it.
Oh, so then obviously multi-tracking in that way. I was making a comment about the idea of recording it while in quarantine.
Oh, gotcha. I'm actually doing one of those. I'm doing a project like that with a couple other bands from my genre. We're all like collectively writing a song and recording it together. And we haven't really gotten too far into it yet. So far, we've established what we are going to play, and we have a chord structure. But from there, I guess we'll be figuring it out and seeing how it works out.
That's fascinating. I mean, obviously microphones, some of them look quite similar. Is that the same microphone that I saw for Leo's guitar as well?
No, I think I was playing into like a AKG C
414?
Yeah, something like that, or 314.
Leo, what were you using?
I think that was an Audio Technica 4040.
Okay, all right.
So for those of us who don't speak whatever language that was, can you explain what just happened a little bit?
Just nerding out over microphones, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a 414.
Okay.
I just happen to have one right beside me.
Okay, so I think that's what I actually have, Jesse, but mine is the gold one instead of
okay.
That's
These
the
are
upgrade that we just got.
For those who don't speak microphone, these are large diaphragm condensers. This one is too, which just means that, you know, she was playing into that one mic because it can pick up a whole lot of sound around you. You know, I could sit here and you could gather a small band around this microphone and it would pick up everybody at a range of a few feet. So they're really useful if you're just doing a recording with one mic.
So does that then, do you run the risk then of picking up like ambient noise then?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely have to factor that into your decisions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what is inspiring you now? Like what is the direction you're going? Like we talked about where you were before quarantine, what you're doing now in quarantine. Like, what do you think is going to happen next? Like, where are you going? I mean, April, you just mentioned you're writing a collaborating song with a bunch of people. Like, what is inspiring with that? Like, what's motivating this? Like, what's getting you going?
The motivation behind it is like to get a bunch of people that are involved in the scene in very far away places together and to write a hopeful song. I think that's the theme, is that like we're all in it together. So that, just for that particular project, that's what it is. I try to always like write, even though like I write about a lot of cathartic topics and a lot of like very deeply emotional topics that are sometimes like traumatic or that are like just sad. I try to always balance it out with being hopeful. Like I try to, like this record I'm trying to put together now, I had all these sad songs and I was like, oh gosh, this record is like so sad. I want to make it, but I don't want to bum everybody out. So I was kind of waiting until I wrote that last song that we just played, because I felt like that was the one I needed to like tie it all together, but also have it be like a hopeful, positive message, like in the end of everything. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Leo, what's motivating you now? What's inspiring you?
Similar themes to what April just mentioned. I feel like it's really interesting that we're really getting a a stark lesson in interconnectedness and how dependent we all really are on each other in various ways. I mean, for one, just a highly contagious virus where, you know, like if I'm sick, you might be sick. It's on the most basic level, you know, that our health is all connected. The breakdown of the economic system, you know, our livelihoods are all connected. People are getting new insight into what is and isn't valuable and what isn't necessary. So all of these themes are really inspiring my imagination. And I imagine that's going to come out in, I mean, some of the sketches of songs that I have in my head right now, that definitely figures into them. In terms of projects, I've been kind of itching for some collaboration for obvious reasons. I've seen a lot of people doing these video projects where, you know, somebody will send out a video and say, maybe, you know, whatever, I recorded this with a, you know, 120 beat per minute click. And then they'll send a video back and splice them all together with a number of musicians play. I've seen some people doing this with different musicians from all over the world. I'd love to try my hand at that. I've been getting into some video editing in the last year or so. And so I think I'm going to be approaching people about doing something like that, doing some songs together, maybe do a Vinegar Creek video that way, since I haven't gotten to play with those guys since this all started. And I'm hoping to develop my broadcasts, my live stream show, to include more people. I have asked a few different musicians to, when they get around to it, send me a video of them playing one of their songs that I could cut into my broadcast and maybe kind of plug them and hype whenever their live streams are going to be. I'd love to see more people working together that way and really taking advantage of this opportunity to collaborate from a distance.
So, April, you talked about wanting to put hope into your music. Would you be able to talk for a second about the nonprofit that you have for folks in recovery and giving them instruments?
Yeah, so unfortunately, because of the quarantine situation, we've kind of been on a hiatus. Normally right now, and I think Leo's involved with it as well, as we would be on the sidewalk playing for Third Fridays for Music for Everyone. But Second Chance is just basically an organization of musicians in recovery in this area of Pennsylvania that get together to do jam sessions, essentially, or open mics in a sober spot. Because a lot of the open mics are in bars and things like that. And we do them at the Raise Project on Thursdays from 5 to 7, usually, not during quarantine, but usually. And we also get instruments to people in recovery. So the money we make on the sidewalk for Third Fridays, we usually put towards getting people guitars, getting guitars in rehabs, or just instruments in general, whatever it may be. Yeah, typically we're giving away a ton of guitars to people that apply to us. But right now I've been having trouble getting things shipped. Most of the places I order instruments from are like either not shipping or they're just having significant delays in shipping. So it's been a little hard. I've been trying to brainstorm ways to figure out how to get like our family of people that play together every week together, how to get us just interacting on the internet, whether it be like learning new songs independently. We basically play covers a lot. So just be like, all right, this is the song of the week, everybody work on it. Just so that when we can get together again, we have new stuff to bring to the table. But yeah, that's the gist of it. Just recovery, music, recovery, and community, bringing all those three things together.
I'd love to get into the loop on that when the world comes back to life. I'm in my second year as a non-drinker now. I gave up drinking back in 2018 at the end of the year after very long struggle with it, and I also kind of I would love to find some places to get together and play with people that aren't bars, because I make my living playing in bars, and I kind of get, they're not as much fun when you
Yeah,
when you're not partaking, you know.
I've been sober for my entire music career since I was 24. So I'm 30 now, so that's 6 years that I've been sober. And early on, I found it really difficult to get involved in the music scene because of my sobriety. Fortunately, I was able to make a lot of friends in Lancaster that were very supportive of me and my sobriety, just without having to go to bars and things like that, that wanted to play music and jam. So it worked out for me. But for people coming fresh out of rehab, a lot of the time it's hard to make that connection.
Yeah.
I'm like outgoing by nature, so I would like show up at an open mic, or I would just be walking down the street playing my guitar, and I'd make friends right then and there. But sometimes it's a little harder for people, especially if they're coming from somewhere far away, to just plant themselves in a city and immediately, you know, not have a social network or any kind of support in that way. So I kind of just try to rope in musicians. When I'm not on tour, I do music therapy at a rehab. I know Leo mentioned that you do it at a retirement home. So I do a similar kind of thing where I go in and I play for people in rehabs, and a lot of that is like, I kind of like rope people in from those, I use it as like a recruitment grounds. I find the musicians and I'm like, all right, hey, like when you come to Lancaster afterwards, find me, like, here's my card, and like, let's jam, and just like get people hanging out and playing.
That's awesome, guys. Should we wrap this up then? I figure what we can do is like say your name, where your stuff can be found, things like that, and then we'll edit this out, and then.
Cool.
All right. So April, would you like to give us a concluding thought?
In the words of Gillian Welch, who's my role model for what I want to be when I'm an old lady folk singer with a banjo and long gray beautiful hair, hard times ain't gonna rule my mind no more. So we've been through a lot, and we'll get through this together.
Leo, you have would you like to say goodbye?
Yeah, well, I'll see you out there on the airwaves, folks. I'm going to be touring the internet from now until the triumphant rebirth of civilization, and just trying to connect with as many people as possible. If you didn't notice before, please notice now that we all are connected, and we're seeing that in terrifying and stunning new ways. So maybe take that as a cue, just not to be an asshole if you can avoid it. Maybe do something nice for somebody. It'll make you feel good. Believe me.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.